So ladies and gentlemen, these are going to be the top 10 best Modern Warfare 3 loadout weapons to use in multiplayer. So these are going to be primarily set up to use in pubs and any kind of like public match setting, but if you want to also use these in more of a competitive setting in ranked or something like that, you can absolutely do that too. Maybe just tweak a couple of things here and there to your preference, but for the most part, these are going to be the absolute best weapons to use inside of the game right now and according to the current meta. This is also after the most recent balance patches have come out for the game since launch, where they tried to tune assault rifles a little bit as well as SMGs. So a lot of these builds I think you'll find extremely viable and competitive in the current meta, and I'll show you all of the attachments and nuances and variances to all of these weapons. So if you guys enjoy, just drop a like on the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. But with that out of the way, let's get started. So coming in at our number 10 spot is going to be the Striker. So this was actually probably the best weapon in the beta, if not at least top 3, and in the full game it has been slightly reworked to where they wanted to make it maybe not the only SMG that people were using, and they did accomplish that. That being said though, the Striker is still incredibly viable, very competitive, and this is the build that I am going to recommend. There's a couple of variants of this though. I actually have experimented with taking off the stock. I feel like if you're running this version, this goes really well with the like tack sliding perk. I feel like if you just want to play ultra aggressive and be a movement demon, then you can use the no stock version of this, but otherwise I would probably keep these attachments as is. And the thing is, the Striker has a lot of range that it can cover, and I don't mean like actual distance range. I mean that it basically is pretty good up close. It's not the best. I feel like there's a sweet spot in that medium range engagement from like, I don't know, anywhere from 20 to 40 meters where it really shines. Obviously not a long distance weapon, and there are better options for super up close, but I feel like that short to medium range is absolutely perfect for the Striker. Not a lot of inherent recoil built into the weapon, so very controllable, very easy to use, and I think it's fantastic. Now before we continue on this list to our number 9 spot, I want to thank today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Enlisted. This is a squad-based FPS game that's free on PC and console, and that uniquely combines PvP and PvE style combat. You can command squads of AI-controlled soldiers into some of the most pivotal battles of World War II. You have hundreds of customization options to choose from, with weapons, gear, vehicles from all countries and factions. There's also a huge new meta update for people who have already previously played, and now is a great time to jump back in. I really like how Enlisted has, some more hardcore elements to its gameplay, yet I still feel like it's very beginner friendly and easy to get into. So go start playing Enlisted today right now. The game is available free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and new players will get a special bonus pack with some really cool stuff by using the link down below in the description. So don't wait any longer and go play Enlisted today. Coming over to our number 9 spot is going to be the BAS-B battle rifle, which is an incredibly versatile weapon and is surprisingly the only battle rifle really worth talking about, even in zombies. So it's good across both of these modes, which is interesting, and that means you'll probably have it leveled up one way or another because you'll need it to be. The base weapon is not fantastic. You will need some attachments to unlock its full potential. I feel like your choice of optic is completely up to you and how you like to play. This is just the one that I prefer using. However, there is an attachment that's not really a negotiable, and that's the magazine. Its base magazine is really not competitive to use in a multiplayer setting at all. You will need something extended. You can go the 45 round mag route as well, although this does hurt your ADS speed and your movement a little bit, so I would do that with caution. I feel like this succeeds most at medium to longer range engagements, and so if you like to play a bit slower and really pick your angles, I think the BAS-B does great. It's not really the best way to look at it as a battle rifle. I think it plays more like a traditional assault rifle, so it's kind of misclassed in my opinion, but still a very good weapon nonetheless, and highly recommend. Coming over to our number 8 weapon, we have the Xrk Stalker, and I'm also going to say by extension literally every sniper rifle in this game.
Snipers everywhere already.
But it's clear in Modern Warfare 3, snipers are absolutely dominant, and primarily the reason for that is the time to kill for regular bullet weapons like ARs and SMGs have been increased, whereas snipers are still largely one-shot. That, and they're extremely easy to use in this game. As somebody who never really sniped that much in Call of Duty, I find sniping in this game incredibly easy, and right now they are like kind of the best guns in the game, and so if you want a good sniper build, I feel like this is one of the ways to go, and this can be adjusted a little bit if you need to too. If you want that extra like rechambering speed, you can go for that or a different optic, etc. But I feel like this is a good blueprint to apply to most snipers if you're going to choose to go that route. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about snipers. Let's move on to number 7. This is going to be the Ram 7 assault rifle, and this is actually a newer weapon in the game, and I feel like this is a very fun one. It's similar to the TAR 21 from the original Modern Warfare 2, at least that's how it plays and feels to me. And the thing is, I feel this sort of build seems to be the most optimal for it right now. However, I've noticed compared to a lot of the other ARs, obviously it doesn't have the craziest time to kill. It does get outclassed by a few other weapons currently in the game, and it has a little bit of like horizontal recoil, which is uncomfortable. I feel like vertical recoil is a lot easier to deal with from the player's input perspective. You know, you can pull down a little bit more, but horizontal recoil is kind of tricky to, you know, manage. So you may want to experiment with different barrels or grips to reduce that horizontal recoil. Otherwise, it's a very good feeling weapon. I'm a big fan of the Ram 7, and it's slowly but surely becoming one of my favorite guns. Obviously, if you're playing ultra competitively, I don't think it necessarily is the most viable, but definitely easy to play with in pubs if you're just kind of chilling and stuff like that. Coming in at number 6, we have the DG LSW LMG. This weapon is fantastic, and I've never been a big LMG guy in Call of Duty games. It's just never really been my style, but this DG doesn't really play much like a traditional LMG, or at least it really doesn't feel like it. It plays much more like a beefed up assault rifle, and you already have a bit of a better magazine than most of those AR choices anyway, so while you do sacrifice a lot of movement and potential mobility with this weapon, you obviously are going to be much slower than everybody else who's running lighter weapons. You can still make that work, and the time to kill is super fast. And also, it's unbelievable at range. It's not the best up close, snappy, you know, CQC kind of weapon, but at medium to long distance, there is basically no competing with this. It's a fantastic gun, and I'm sure you'll see a lot in your games because it is a very popular one at the moment. But I think this build does wonders for it. It very complements its strengths and everything like that, so give it a try and see what you think. But moving on over to number 5, we have the SVA assault rifle. Now, the SVA is a phenomenal weapon and is incredibly competitive with the rest of the roster. Obviously, there's a lot of viability in the game, you know, between the MW3 and MW2 weapons. The Modern Warfare 3 weapons appear to have an edge in terms of viability and damage and everything like that. However, the SVA also has another property where you can use this viably in single fire. Most guns, you're, you know, kind of putting yourself at a huge disadvantage by doing so. That is not the case with the SVA. You need to be careful about doing it, especially in a competitive multiplayer setting, but it's a great weapon nonetheless. It's very quick and lightweight and mobile and snappy, and I think it's probably one of the better options if you are an aggressive assault rifle player. But coming in at our number 4 spot is going to be the Xrk 556. Number 1, an absolutely fantastic competitive weapon, and this is where I would say competitive viability is really important, and the Xrk is an animal. Like, it's a laser beam, and especially when it's built right. I actually have a few variants of this, and you can feel free to experiment as well. The optic doesn't really matter so much. I would say it can be used even with a slight magnification if you really want to, because it's very good at long range, even though it's an assault rifle, and it's also good at medium and close range. I think it pretty much covers all of its bases. The other thing that's quite important as well, in my opinion, is actually the grip. I've experimented with a few different ones, but ultimately I've settled on this one for the Xrk because it still manages to, you know, retain a lot of that snappy movement speed, and I play a little bit more aggressive with it. This is the one that feels best to me, but I think you can really never go wrong with the Xrk so long as you follow this general structure of it. I think it's a great weapon, super fun to use, and one of my favorite in MW3. Coming in on our number 3 spot is the DG56, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is Mandela effect, but I swear this was the DG58, and if it's not, like, I think I need to get my brain checked, because I swear, every time I say this weapon, I say the DG58. I think they changed it, and I'm not sure why, and maybe they didn't. I don't know. I may have dementia, but anyways, this is the best weapon build, in my opinion, for the DG56. This is what you're going to see, like, the sweats using. When you're getting extremely competitive, you're playing, like, you know, those high SPMM lobbies. Most of the basement-dwelling Cheeto dust finger nerds will be running this, and that includes myself. So, yeah, it's a good gun. It's basically what the FAMAS wants to be. The actual FAMAS in this game is not very good at all, or at least it's not quite as competitive. This is the replacement, and if obviously it's a burst weapon, if you're comfortable with that, probably one of the best guns you can run, period. I think it's kind of like my go-to right now. I've been using this a lot. Extremely broken time to kill. It's super fast. It's amazing, and I think these attachments also very much complement complement its strengths, you can really never build this gun bad, and I think you'll have a lot of success with this one. Now, moving over to our number 2 spot is going to be the classic MCW assault rifle, basically the ACR, and interestingly, similarly to the Striker, was also very dominant in the beta and is just as much of a menace here. I think it would be a crime against humanity if this game's replacement for the ACR wasn't one of the best weapons in the game, and it obviously feels just as strong as it did. And I think that there is basically a couple of different ways you could build this, but this is the one I ultimately settled on. Very minimal recoil, very straightforward time to kill, feels like an absolute laser beam. It has not the fastest fire rate in the whole game, but I don't think that's as much of a problem because the consistency you get more than makes up for it. Now, personally, I like to use an optic on it, but you don't have to. The MCW has usable iron sights. They're not the best in the whole game, but they're very viable and certainly usable. So if that can free up an attachment slot, you can add something else like a stock maybe. But either way, I think the MCW is going to serve you well, and you could try this build out and maybe go from there. Before we get to our number 1 weapon, I wanted to give an honorable mention to the TAC-56 from Modern Warfare 2. Now, all of the MW2 weapons were repurposed and rebalanced for MW3, and it's obviously not the same in this game. However, it's still viable, it's still fun, very competitive. It was one of my favorite weapons in MW2, if not my favorite, period, and it's still very good here. I settled on a build that I quite enjoy. It's obviously not quite as cutting-edge meta as a few of the other weapons high on this list, but if you have it unlocked from the last game, if you're struggling to come up with something, or if you're still unlocking attachments, and you want a decent weapon that's viable, that will, allow you to hold up in lobbies, give this one a try, and I think it's a solid choice. But finally, coming in over to our number 1 spot, we have the Rival 9 SMG, another dominant weapon in the beta, and I didn't think would quite be as good here in the full game, but I think is probably like the best gun, period. This is going to be your best choice for up close, fast and aggressive, like movement, sort of heavy style, kind of play, and I think the time to kill is insane up close. It's one of the best weapons, period, for that. You can't really beat it too much at its own game, and the thing is as well, got very pretty iron sights. Even though you don't need to use them a ton, they're still absolutely usable, freeing up another slot for attachments. This also does good with the Marauder stock as well, but this is the one that the build I ultimately settled on that I feel the most comfortable with. It's an absolute bullet hose of an SMG, meaning it has one inherent weakness, obviously not so good at range. It can handle medium range surprisingly well, but anything outside of like 40 to 50 meters, forget about it, which is, maybe it's worth also equipping a sniper alongside it. That seems to be what a lot of people are doing right now, so to cover all of its bases. However, the Rival 9, probably the best gun in the game right now in terms of regular weapons, if we're not including sniper rifles. It's fantastic, and give it a try. But anyways, those are the top 10 best guns in Modern Warfare 3 right now. Go try them out, go get sweaty, y'all know what to do. Don't forget to go download Enlisted right now. The game is available for free on all platforms, and you'll get some great stuff by going down there, using the link in the description, and downloading the game. And thank you very much to Enlisted for sponsoring today's video.